Hi there, everybody. It's Aluna Michaels, Esoteric Astrologer. How are you doing? Okay, so we're here to talk about the astrological events of September 2015. And there's a lot to talk about here. So, going from the beginning of the month to the last part of the month, but the most exciting things are in the middle of the month. Okay, so and excuse me, there is a thunderstorm coming up, but I thought I'd get the video done before the storm hits. You might hear some thunder. Okay, so Venus is going to go direct on September 6th. It's been retrograde since July 25th. And it's going direct in the sign of Leo. So that'll help all you Leos feel more Leo-y. And in general, when Venus is retrograde, there's a lot of healing about relationships. There can be organizing money, or possessions or things that are valuable to you, or what's really Venus. So you might have been sorting through stuff or getting rid of things or seeing like what's really important to you in life and coming to have more gratitude for people around you or the things you have or the gifts you have to give others. All that kind of stuff is a Venus retrograde. The thoughtfulness, because retrograde planets, people think, oh, it's just going to screw it up. It's going to screw up anything Venus, anything money or relationships or something. But it's more about the going within and seeing what matters most, especially when it is Venus, because it's about values. So, but as it goes direct, it's going to be not mathematically exact, but it will be very close to Mars, which is also in Leo. And also, Venus will be, and Mars will be making a trine to Uranus. And again, for some of you sticklers, it's not exact, but there's that energy when the planet goes direct. So it's like, I'm almost trining, so we'll just take it, So there's a burst of creativity because Uranus is very inventive and Mars is like, yeah, let's do it, So there can be some incredible insights you have about business or about relationships, solving a problem, or about feeling more self-confidence in yourself. And it's just a matter of also taking what you were working on during that retrograde and like, yes, I can put this out there, because it's more internal when it's retrograde. So that's a nice, like, boom, like coming out, kind of thing for the Venus. So that's nice. So that's going to be there in the beginning of the month. And then, don't weird out about it, Mercury's going to go retrograde as it does 3 times a year. So Mercury will go retrograde on the 17th of September. It goes retrograde in Libra, and it's going to go back. It retrogrades at 15 degrees of Libra, if that's important to you. It goes back to 0 degrees of Libra, which would be on October 8th, and then it will go forward. For those of you who like to know when, so if it goes direct at 1 degree of Libra, we say, okay, when was it 1 degree of Libra before it went retrograde? And that is August 28th. So, excuse me, I'm drinking some water. And so that retrograde can kind of start early for some people with just sort of, the examination process of things. Again, that retrograde, Mercury's thinking, so you're thinking internally. And because it is Libra, again, it's relationships and money, those same themes of the Venus retrograde. So especially even before the Mercury's retrograde and the Venus is just on all this stuff, it can be more tidying up about that and continuing to stick with what you were working on during the Venus retrograde, because like I said, with the Venus going direct next to the Mars and near Uranus, it can be a little bit, you could be like, I just want to just be so happy to forget that I was on a budget or something like that. So it can kind of make you feel a little carried away sometimes. So the fact that the Mercury's retrograde or about to retrograde in the same sign, like, well, let me think that through. I want to have enthusiasm, but still be real clear-minded. So you don't, I don't know, kind of over-enthusiastic when the Venus goes direct. So it's nice that the Mercury will kind of be echoing the Venus retrograde. Okay, the interesting thing too is when Mercury turns retrograde, it's going to be close to opposing Uranus. And when it goes direct in October, it will be making a sextile, which is an easier connection to Saturn. So Mercury opposed Uranus can be a little overexcited, or just anxiety about things, because Mercury's how you're thinking and Uranus is just like, oh, possibilities, ah. And this can, just so you know, this can be other people around you going through this, that people could be feeling edgy or something as it turns retrograde. Maybe extra controlling, because Uranus can be like, oh, I'm out of control, so I'm gonna boss you around or snap at you or something like that. So as Mercury then retrogrades and goes forward in October next to Saturn, working with Saturn in the sextile, that's more rational thinking. So anything that would come up, like say with, especially in relationships, if people are stressed or something, or because the opposition of Mercury going retrograde opposite Uranus can bring it up in relationships, romantic relationships especially, but work relationships too, family stuff. Kind of think like, how important is this to confront it now? Because when Mercury's retrograde, people sometimes don't know what's going on within them. So if you kind of waited things out and said, okay, let's just wait until Mercury goes direct. 3 weeks later, they can have that solid thinking of Mercury next to Saturn, or working with Saturn. I keep saying next to, it's not a conjunction. But that connection of the two is like, oh, this is what was going on with me, or this is what I need, or this is, I understand now what's happening. So sometimes when Mercury's retrograde and somebody is unfamiliar with their internal workings, it's all a jumble for them. Just let them be, and know that it will get cleared up after the retrograde, which is common with the misunderstandings during retrograde. But left to people's own devices, they'll find out like what really was that about with the Saturn. The Saturn will help them when it moves forward. So try not to make a big drama about it, because something goes on when that's about to retrograde. You could spend all this time talking to your friends about it and what's wrong with my relationship partner, blah, 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 and it's like then all clears up. It's like, ugh, and that again is echoed by the Mercury being retrograding in Libra about relationships. So just kind of say, okay, even if there's some confusion about money stuff too, that can work out. So I'd say that the Mercury retrograde is reinforcing and kind of testing you on the Venus retrograde stuff. You really need to keep that in place, those commitments you made to yourself during the Venus retrograde. Okay, so next thing to talk about, yay, is Saturn going into Sagittarius. I'm going to do a little dance for that. And not that Saturn in Scorpio stinks, but any sign that Saturn's in for almost 3 years kind of stinks at the end. It's like, all right, enough of the lessons about this sign. We had a tease when Saturn did go into Sagittarius for a few months. And just in general, of course, Sag is a lighter sort of sign than Scorpio. It's not as introspective and all that. So then it went back in June. It went into Sag in December, went back to Scorpio in June, and we've had it there since. So, last month in August, Saturn at least went forward, but coming out of Sagittarius, oh, what a relief. Now, also, and it's funny with these themes about money, Venus is money, and so would Libra and Taurus be. But Scorpio is about deep financial. It can be about debt, fears of money, feeling controlled about money, stuff like that. Family history with finances, sexuality too. There's a lot of those themes. So it's a different, more intense theme than Venus does about sex, relationships, and stuff, because Venus represents more like what you value and things like that. But Pluto is like your deepest needs, and about bonding and about the trust and connection of bonding, which makes you really vulnerable, like way more than Venus does. So the fact that then Venus has been introspective, being retrograde, and that clears up. We're having the Mercury work through things being in Libra, and then the Saturn leaving Scorpio, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like brand new energy about being able to trust and being able to bond. And just feeling lighter. Saturn in Scorpio is very like digging within yourself. And the Saturn in Sag is like, oh my gosh, just live, just live on principles, just be a good person or something. It's much more simple, even though Sagittarius can be very philosophical and stuff. It's more action, and so it's like we're all kind of coming out of a cave and just enjoying ourselves. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know if my thing just went dark here. My computer just went dark. Okay, so then Saturn and Sagittarius, hooray. And then one quick little thing, Mars is going to move into Virgo, and that's going to be on the 25th. Did I say that Saturn goes into Sag on the 17th, 18th of September? So then Mars will go into Virgo on the 25th of September and make a square to Saturn. We'll talk about what the sign means in a second, but is that a weekend? Let me just see there, 25th. Yeah, it's a Friday. So kind of like Thursday the 24th through maybe the 27th, which is a Sunday. It can be a little frustrating when Mars squares Saturn because Mars wants to do it and Saturn is like slower, more careful. And even though it's in Sag, which is more fluid, you could just people can be a little stubborn during that time. It's no big deal. But sometimes too, when Saturn moves into a new sign, people take time to adapt to that. A lot of people don't know what's going on astrologically, but they're sensing it. So that's just a little tiny thing. But, and also I would say with that weekend, it's just don't push so hard with things. It's like, if it's not in the flow, it's like, let's back off of it and wait till it flows. So even by Monday, the 28th of September, flow a little more. Okay. So Mars going into Virgo. Now it just stays there for like, how long? It's usually about 2 months. So yeah, middle of November it'll go out. But that's just a great time to get stuff done, be prioritizing things. It's nice for gardening, or it's kind of late for gardening, but even just, I don't know, going apple picking and stuff like that, or being out in nature in that way, but connecting with the earth. Cooking can be great just because the wholesome nature of that, and putting energy toward exercise, but just good in general about planning things that are good for your mental health, your spiritual health, your physical health. And okay, then we're going to talk about Pluto. There's so much to talk about. Pluto going direct. This is also awesome. This is going to happen also on the 25th of September. So Pluto is in Capricorn, and it will be in Capricorn forever, practically, for a long time, many, many years. So the retrograde happens once a year and going direct happens once a year. And that's a really nice energy too that really echoes the Saturn leaving Scorpio, because Pluto is Scorpio's planet. And so, Pluto itself is always kind of intense, but just it's less intense maybe going forward. So it's, again, kind of a relief. I won't do too much about that because it kind of mimics the Saturn stuff. So then we're going to have an eclipse. We're having a partial eclipse on the 13th, which is at 20 degrees of Virgo, sun and moon being there. But the one on the 28th is a total eclipse with the sun at 4 degrees of Libra and the moon at 4 degrees of Aries. And so it's a total eclipse, so even more powerful. One of my friends went to a astrology workshop once. Hi, Sherry, if you're watching this. And she was saying that this workshop on eclipses, like that the woman leading the eclipse was like, just watch out during eclipses, those total eclipses, of what you do like 3 days before the eclipse or 3 days after. So that week sort of around the eclipse, it's like you can step into such a karmic vortex. And especially because it's Libra, again, relationship stuff, it's like things seem so compelling and so attractive. And especially because there's that, all that energy change of the Saturn changing signs, the Pluto changing, even that Mars coming up, but it's squaring Saturn. It's almost like, it's just, if something, this is weird advice, but if it seems blocked, let it be blocked, step away from it for a while. Or if it seems super easy, but usually wouldn't be something you do, maybe block yourself. Because it's like, let me just think about this, because sometimes you do weird stuff during eclipses, like historically or traditionally, they were kind of scary, strange, surreal times. And you can feel sort of surreal and again, do things to just think, well, what was I doing? And now I'm stuck in it, or I'm stuck with the repercussions of that. And so it's just watch what happens there. And again, it's not a huge deal, but if you feel something real compelling about it, just wait. If it's meant to be, it'll be there a week later or a few days later when all those energies have settled down. So that's that. I feel like I've talked a whole lot and give you little bits of everything, but that's what's going on in September. And I always think I love giving you guys advice who understand astrology, but I think it's really good when you know astrology, not just for yourself, but the people that are unarmed with information, and they don't know why they're feeling so confused or stressed, or you don't have to tell them, oh, it's because Mercury's doing this. It's like just kind of kindness for those people, so I like being able to give that information to cut some people some slack in your life, when they're being bounced around by these energies. So if you'd like a session with me, my website is alunamichaels.com, and I have my horoscope on there, so you could look up your monthly horoscope if you'd like that. I also have some videos on there for esoteric information for each of your signs. So your sun sign, or you could do your rising sign or moon sign, or a planet that's prominent in your chart. You could look there. And I will speak to you next month, and have fun with all the energies in September. Bye for now.